When we decided to invest in Tesla, $300 million valuation, 29 employees, 2008, I told my wife, we're investing in electric cars. She said, go get your money back. Elon Musk may be the most controversial CEO of our time, but he's also the Thomas Edison or Steve Jobs of our time. He is the great CEO of our generation.
Ford's not even that expensive.
I mean, I'm not saying Ford's a tech company, although these days, given it,
I think Ford's the one.
It's had.
I think Ford's the one that's going to plot. Are we pigs? I don't think it's valued where it should be. It was undervalued. You're going to get a bigger dividend.
What indications do you have that could suggest this gigafactory could be up and running within a week?
Yeah, I mean, based on all the work we've done analyzing the situation in Austin, between paperwork that's been filed, a lot of the activity at the factory, some of the stamping machines that have already in place, we think in the next, call it 7 to 10 days, they'll start to produce their first Model Ys, which is important. It's important to the capacity story, to Tesla, as well as, of course, in Berlin. But Austin's going to be the centerpiece over the coming years, and we view this as really, a big step forward.
In this video, credible rumors suggest Tesla's Austin factory will begin production next week. Jim Cramer does his absolute best to convince me he's an idiot, claiming Ford is the one, the stock is undervalued, and that their dividend is going to increase. And an early Tesla investor who also sat on the company's board explains why Elon Musk is the greatest CEO of our generation. So let's get into the video. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can get 2 free stocks with WeBull, a free stock with Stake, free Bitcoin with Coinbase, and free Bitcoin with BlockFi, and the BlockFi Bitcoin Rewards credit card. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support.
Now, I have to ask you about Tesla because it's changed so much since the time you invested and were on the board. What do you make of the Tesla of today and Elon Musk's leadership, controversies, and all?
Well, look, Elon Musk may be the most controversial CEO of our time, but he's also the Thomas Edison or Steve Jobs of our time. And look, I served on the board of Tesla. I chaired the audit committee. I've got to tell you, Elon was not always easy to deal with, but he is the great CEO of our generation.
I think at this stage, it'd be hard pressed to find people who are mentally healthy who would argue that Elon isn't the greatest CEO of our generation. Here's a question. Do you personally think it would be possible to both be the greatest CEO of our generation and be easy to get along with? Let me know in the comments below. Personally, I don't think there's a fucking chance, and let me explain why. As a CEO, your job, your duty is to your company, not to people's feelings. Therefore, working with a sense of urgency, saying what needs to be said, doing what needs to be done to ensure that your company can execute against their mission is your only priority. Now, I know people, we should be nice to people as well. I understand where you're coming from. The question wasn't, would it be nice for a CEO to be nice and kind and care about people's feelings along the way? The question was, is it possible to be the greatest CEO of our generation and be easy to get along with? Let me use an analogy to explain where I'm coming from here. Let's just imagine, for whatever reason, the end of the world is imminent. We've got 10 minutes, all life on Earth extinct, that's it. But there's a possibility that we may find a solution. In those 10 minutes, do you want people to be nice and caring and concerned about people's feelings, or to do whatever the fuck it takes to solve the problem and ensure life on Earth can continue? That's the point. Elon Musk is working with this same mission critical sense of urgency that what he needs to do must be done, and it must be done ASAP. That is the mindset Elon is in constantly. Tesla and SpaceX have existential missions. This explains Elon's sense of urgency, and one of the key reasons why he's not easy to get along with. We'll talk about your feelings after the mission is accomplished.
And let me draw a distinct contrast here. I love Rivian. They make a great truck. I love Lucid. They have a very cool car, but the two of them together have not sold 2,000 units yet they're both valued at $70 billion. As an investor, I'd be careful about that.
And were I an investor in Lucid stock or Rivian stock as opposed to a gambler just making a bet, hoping and wishing, but if I was an investor who actually believed I'd done my homework, the risk reward made sense, there was a great opportunity there, and I was likely to get a positive return on my investment, I would immediately book myself in with a specialist, hoping to get some scans done to determine whether or not I might be suffering from brain damage. Really.
Look at Tesla in comparison. 2020, $31 billion in revenue. Last year, 2020. Last year, they did $52 billion in revenue. This is an enormous company growing 50% a year. No one else in the auto company is doing this. So he's revolutionized the industry. He's built a great company. Whatever you think about him personally, he is one heck of a CEO. We're proud to have been an early investor. When we decided to invest in Tesla, $300 million valuation, 29 employees, 2008. I told my wife we're investing in electric cars. She said, go get your money back.
Well, it's a good thing that Steve Wesley isn't a nice guy pleaser bitch who does whatever he can to keep his wife happy, isn't it? Actually, this will be super fun. Let me know in the comments below if anyone watching had this kind of interaction with their partner, husband, wife, blow-up doll, etc. You were super keen to invest in Tesla stock and they were absolutely against the idea. Or maybe you were the person that was against the idea and they were super keen. Let me know below.
Ford's not even that expensive.
I mean, I'm not saying Ford's a tech company, although these days, given Ford's the move it's had.
I think Ford's the one.
How about North American Truck of the Year, Bronco, SUV of the Year yesterday at the North American Auto Show?
But that made sense. I think my Maverick should have been, but that's okay.
Man, why don't you just take your victory lap here and step to the side? I mean, this is one of your best calls you've had in a long time.
Because I think Jim Farley's a different kind of guy. In Ford versus Ferrari,
take a breather.
In my Omniverse movie that I'm making,
yes,
Ford wins, beats Ferrari.
Think of the EV race, this is Jonas, as a marathon. Tesla's in the lead at mile 21. Everyone else is at mile 2 or still tying their shoes. How is that positive for everybody else?
Ford is up 17% this year, but Lucid is up almost 20%.
Well, good. When that January 20th lockup, maybe someone's going to take expiration. Maybe someone takes advantage.
The excitement in EV is not abated. Obviously, we've talked about Rivian, although it came back yesterday.
Well, when you drove in the Lucid, wasn't it one of the most cool things ever?
It was early days.
I drove one.
Rawlinson was saying we still got to fix this and that. So I feel like I need to take another ride.
There are a lot of people who got their first ones and they want a little adjustments, but it's a luxury EV. Now, I mean, Mark Benioff has every luxury EV, and what is his favorite? Mustang Mach-E.
He has every one, so he owns them all.
Yeah. I like Ford. When you go back to the fact that Mike Chapel just owns Ford, and we sold, it is our biggest position because it's going up a lot. Are we pigs? I don't think it's valued where it should be. It was undervalued. You're going to get a bigger dividend. But most importantly, Ford has this, under Farley, if they don't make money in it, they don't sell it. So if you take a look at the Mustang Mach-E, it's sold out, they're making more. They are not even calling it. If you put your name down to get the F-150 electric, they've selectively called some back and not others because they can't make it.
Where do I even start? Now, don't get me wrong. Cramer would absolutely smoke me on an IQ test, but I'm really getting the feeling that this guy's a fucking moron. Ford is the one. Cramer saying that Ford's stock is undervalued after growing 151% over the past 12 months because they said some things about EVs rather than actually doing something about it. The Mach-E, it's a tiny low-volume vehicle with no margin. It's irrelevant. It's a good start, but it doesn't matter. Cramer also astonishingly suggesting that Ford's dividend will increase. Now, sure, this is theoretically possible, but should Ford's dividend increase, I would be getting the fuck out of the stock 1,000 times faster, and let me explain why. Ford needs to urgently invest tens upon tens of billions of dollars re-engineering their entire company to be purely focused on electric vehicles. They need new equipment, new factories, new everything. They can't afford to be paying out any dividends to investors, let alone increasing their current dividend. It's insanity. Now, don't get me wrong, Jim Farley is a great CEO, I recognize this, and of all the legacy automotive manufacturers, Ford are relatively well placed to not go completely bankrupt by tomorrow. But these kind of comments and this reasoning make literally zero sense. Heard some further comments that one of Ford's electric SUVs won North American SUV of the Year at some obscure car show. Totally meaningless. Let me give you guys and girls a little bit of an insight here. This is a new form of virtue signaling. Award car of the year, truck of the year, luxury sedan of the year, luxury SUV of the year, blah blah blah. Award that to an electric vehicle so you can show the world that electric vehicles are great and you care about the environment. This is what everyone's doing. Every new electric vehicle and every product from every company now is winning awards. Not because they're a compelling product, some of them are great, but because it's an easy way to virtue signal. And the final example of backwards logic from Cramer there was suggesting that because there's long wait times for these vehicles that haven't been produced yet or are being produced in tiny volumes that don't matter, therefore that's a positive for the company. This is the polar opposite, and I will explain why. A positive thing would be producing these vehicles at high volumes and still having enormously long wait times. But here's the problem. Ford haven't yet done the hard part of ramping to volume production on their electric vehicles and then selling them profitably. It's a good sign. It's an early indicator. The fact that Ford has a long backlog may sound positive on the surface, but when you realize they're not producing EVs at volume, it means nothing. And it illustrates the point that Ford are yet to climb the mountain of scaling EV production profitably. This is evidence of how far behind Ford are. The Mark E sold less vehicles in 2021 than your mum has slept with men in her lifetime. Actually, that's a bad example because that's quite a lot. Get the feeling that Jim Cramer is suffering from a major form of cognitive bias. As he mentioned, his charitable fund, biggest position, Ford stock. Is it possible that Jim is so blinded by the fact that this is such a critically large position in his charitable fund, their number one position by value, that he's unable to see reality for what it is? Is he living in la la land and deluded, or is it just a total coincidence?
What indications do you have that could suggest this gigafactory could be up and running within a week?
Yeah, I mean, based on all the work we've done analyzing the situation in Austin, between paperwork that's been filed, a lot of the activity at the factory, some of the stamping machines that have already in place, we think in the next, call it 7 to 10 days, they'll start to produce their first Model Ys, which is important. It's important to the capacity story, to Tesla, as well as, of course, in Berlin. But Austin's going to be the centerpiece over the coming years, and we view this as really, a big step forward from a supply issue.
As we heard there, IVE sources suggest Austin production begins next week. Something to keep in mind as Tesla stock continues its extremely volatile run the past few weeks. Anyone want to take a guess what may happen when we get confirmation that production has commenced at Austin? Let me know in the comments below.
So let me ask this, Dan. What is the state of labor shortages for this company? Any indication there as to how it will be able to produce this? The factory itself up and running. I'm curious about the workers as this new Omicron variant spreads, as well as the chip shortage. Tesla was seemingly kind of able to buck that as well as you could last year. Any indications as to how those two shortages, labor and semiconductors, will impact this production?
Yeah, so first on semis, as we saw with the 4Q numbers, I mean, they're really almost Teflon-like relative to other automakers. It's still a headwind that they're seeing. I mean, in terms of called 5-6 month delays, but that's been something that's containable at this point. We think about 30,000 units ultimately pushed from Q4 to Q1. In terms of labor in Austin, they've had a lot of success over the last few months in terms of hiring, for the factory floor, for engineers. It's part of why they moved to Austin. We're starting to see the job openings sort of dwindle. So I think about 70-80% success rate so far. So this is really something where now it's just about Musk cutting the red ribbon on Austin, which is really going to be, a linchpin to the overall success from a supply perspective. We think we could be looking at 2 million units end of the year globally from 1 million if you look where we are today.
Interesting. Now, what would that do for Tesla's overall business, the capacity to double that production? Is there demand for 1 million additional vehicles?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, right now, Tesla doesn't have a demand issue, a supply issue. Demand's outstripping supply significantly globally. We're seeing that in China. Reservations continue to get pushed. And, this is something where that's why it's important in terms of Austin as well as Berlin that Tesla expands that supply. In terms of what we're seeing on this sort of green tidal wave playing out, very important from demand that's being generated globally. But that's also why they have a lead that no other auto manufacturer has. They vertically integrate. They'll be able to produce about 2 million units in terms of EV land. And that's something that's a big part of that moat that they built out along with the supercharger network and the cachet of being a leader in EV.
What does building out this factory in Austin mean for the company, Dan? Of course, access to talent would be a big factor here as it tries to ramp up production. But in terms of taxes and money that can be saved for Tesla, how does this change the game?
Well, it's part of why they moved from Fremont. I mean, Fremont, they were already starting to get growing pains. And I think when you look at sort of the build out, I mean, we see Rivian in Atlanta, you're going to see more in and around Austin from an engineering talent perspective, as well as what I believe is really going to be the start of a second EV city build out that we've already sort of seen take place in Silicon Valley. And for Tesla, it's important, even symbolically, to move their headquarters there, because more and more globally, I see production being built out of course, in China and then Austin. This is also the drum roll to the Cybertruck that should hit by early 2023.
The Cybertruck that will be produced, it sounds like, Dan, in Austin, but we see a whole bunch of other electric trucks coming to market. Any indication as to how the Cybertruck might perform? Very different look than the Ford F-150 Lightning, of course, what GM is rolling out with the Silverado as well.
Before Dan comments, I'll share my 2 cents here. I think worst case Cybertruck, at least 250,000 units per year in the US. Best case scenario, over 1 million. Let me know in the comments below. What do you guys and girls think? Once Cybertruck is ramped up, roughly how many units per year will be sold in the US? For reference, today the best-selling pickup trucks sell almost 1 million units per year each.
That continues to play out. I mean, right now, it's really Ford that's going to be winning that race, and Rivian as well in terms of pickup. Tesla will be a little late to the game there, but that's going to be a significant market going forward for GM as well, which is why right now we're seeing this massive shift to pickups in terms of where demand is. But right now for Ford, it's a big part of the re-rating that we see in Ford because of the F-150 coming out of the gates and also production ramping.
As someone who follows the EV space closely, Dan, I'm just curious, what are some ancillary companies here, companies on the periphery that do engage with electric vehicles that could benefit? And I ask because Bill Gates, the news today that he's going to be investing $15 billion in clean energy this year through Breakthrough Energy, his venture arm. Does that benefit other companies in the EV space?
There's going to be a massive ripple effect in terms of the $5 trillion that we believe is going to be spent over the next decade, not just from the actual automakers, but of course, from the battery makers, from the supply players, especially in the U.S. I think what you're going to see is more and more of a merging between technology and EV in terms of auto. I think you're going to see Amazon dive deeper into the pool in terms of EVs. I think Apple as well, Google, and I think Microsoft, as others, they focus on the software component. And the software component is going to become more and more important, especially with full self-driving, that really I think it's going to be front and center over the next 3 to 4 years.
Dan, quickly before I have to let you go, latest price target on Tesla and how much you see it rising this year?
1,400 base, 1,800 bull case. I think this is just sort of knee-jerk reaction in terms of risk off. We think this is a stock that's only that middle innings of moving higher in terms of what I believe this sort of EV race really hitting this next gear of growth.
Is it just me, or did anyone else notice the host's reaction to Dan I's price targets for Tesla stock, $1,400 base case and the $1,800 bull case? She seemed rather surprised, almost shocked, but I got a funny feeling that Dan's going to look like a Tesla bear in 12 months' time. And just finally, a little bit of breaking news over on the Tesla merch store. Tesla has now switched the payment option to some of their products to Dogecoin only. You can see the best sellers of Belt Buckle, the Cyberquad, and the Cyber Whistle, all only available to purchase with Dogecoin. They're not joking around here. If we look in the actual product page, the only payment option, Dogecoin. This is marketing genius. The amount of discussion and controversy this is going to cause will pay for itself because it costs Tesla literally nothing to do this. And think about all the crypto whales out there who might buy some Tesla merch just because they're accepting Dogecoin. In fact, forcing customers to use Dogecoin for some of these products. And on that note, I'm out of here. See you guys in the next video. I'm Stephen Mike Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoy these videos, there's a bunch of ways you can support the channel, access exclusive content and perks, and get some free stocks and crypto. Check out the links in the pinned comment below. You can get 2 free stocks with WeBull, a free stock with Stake, free Bitcoin with Coinbase, and free Bitcoin with BlockFi, and the BlockFi Bitcoin Rewards credit card. You can also pick up some Tesla, Elon, and investment themed merch in the merch store. If you want to take it to the next level, join thousands of members on Patreon to gain exclusive access to over 100 Q&A videos, loads of exclusive content, exclusive access to my up-to-date 10-year Tesla stock price targets, and even access my Tesla valuation model at the investor support level and above. So check out the links in the pinned comment below, and thanks for your support. And if you're still watching, you're awesome. I read every single comment on this channel and I really appreciate your feedback. So if you've got any thoughts on today's video, questions, comments, or suggestions for a new video, let me know in the comments below. Check the cards on screen now to browse the merch store, join Patreon, or watch the next video.